I'm live. Am I live? Good morning. Good morning. This is different. So I'm on my laptop instead of my phone. Good morning. So this is going to be a bit of a cautionary tale and hopefully really informative for those of you out there who are considering purchasing properties in the Dominican Republic specifically. I mean, this what I'm about to tell you applies to everywhere and everyone. But I have had people contact me recently who are interested in making purchases. They've either visited the DR or are going to visit soon, and they're very, very interested in purchasing property there. But I've also had some people call me and tell me about some, I guess, kind of like some scams that are happening. And so I thought it was important to come on and let you guys know that, of course, that you need to be careful and specifically like what you need to do to make sure that you are not a victim of any type of fraud or just abuse that people would try to do. So one of the things I've heard recently, like in the past couple of days, someone called me letting me know about some people who've apparently been putting YouTube channels up, specifically suggesting that they are, I don't know if they're saying that they're realtors specifically, but they're mentioning that they are selling real estate, that they can help you buy a piece of property in the DR. And apparently there's one person that I won't name any names, but someone who said that they are actually a realtor with lots of experience, and they're not. This is coming from the people that I deal with down there who are licensed realtors and brokers in other countries. Now, the deal with the DR is that you do not have to have any type of license to sell real estate there. You can just show up and claim that you're a realtor or start selling property. You don't have to have any type of particular licensure. You don't have to have any certification, no special training. You can just show up and do it. And that could be great for people who just want to make a quick buck or who are in the business of, defrauding people. But for the rest of us who want to purchase property and not have any trouble, it can be problematic because you don't know who to believe. You don't know who's who. And so, for example, when I first went to the DR, I worked for a real estate company down there. And yeah, yeah, I see the comment. Yeah, I mean, there's real estate fraud everywhere, but the DR, it can be rampant because there are not those measures in place to protect people. So when I first went there, one of my first jobs was working for a real estate company. And I was hired by the company because of my English speaking skills, naturally being fluent, right, native speaker, and because I'm a lawyer and I have some real estate background with regard to my legal practice. And these people were French. It was a French-Belgian company that I worked for, and their English was really limited. So they wanted me to translate some documents for them, some contracts, and work on their website, translating some things on their website. So I did that. And I learned a lot about the real estate market in Las Terrenas, in particular, when I worked for them. And I saw some fraud go down. I saw how some people do some really shady things. And it was a great way for me to learn about the market in the DR in particular, but also, or in general, but also in particular in Las Terrenas. And then I worked for them for a year and a half, maybe a little while, and, got lots of information, as I said. And one of the things I saw happen, or at least I learned about, was that there was another real estate company in my town. I think it was run by Belgians. I'm not sure, but it was definitely not like a local Dominican company. And these people had like taken money for down payments and said, okay, showing people properties and land and all this kind of stuff. And they had an office with, computers and website and the whole bit. So it looked really official. But then one day they apparently everything was gone out of the office. There were just desks and tables left. They ran off with people's money. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just disappeared from the country, just completely disappeared. So there were folks who were left with nothing. They lost their money. They lost everything. And so that was the first time I heard about that. And then I met another family. Actually, it was a family, it was some people that I knew, like friends basically. And they had a specific experience where they'd put money down on a piece of land. They were going to build their dream home and all this. And they had a lawyer. I think it was a lawyer. No, it wasn't a lawyer. Let me take back, because all lawyers are not bad, right? But they had an experience with purchasing directly from a seller. I believe this was directly from a seller. And same kind of thing. People ran off with their money. They had no recourse. So it's so important that you find people who are reputable. Now, how do you do that if you don't know anybody, right? You ask questions. Ask about what is their background. Do they have a realtor's license somewhere else? Do they have some type of professional background that makes them, especially competent? to tell you about real estate in the Dominican Republic or wherever, if you're thinking about France or South Africa, wherever you are. I mean, you need to speak with somebody who has some type of background, some type of reputation that you can check out before you give them any money, before you agree to do business with them, before you sign a contract agreeing to have them represent you. Find out who they are. And the one easy way to do that is just by asking, well, tell me about what's your background in real estate? What's your background in, property management or whatever it may be, right? And they should be able to tell you, oh, well, I worked for a realty company in this location, or I have an extensive background. Like the people I work with have extensive backgrounds, both in the Dominican Republic and in Canada. Loads and loads and loads of experience and, multi-million-dollar business in Canada that you can actually look up and see and, verify and all of that, as opposed to someone who's just coming down there saying, hey, I can sell you a piece of property, which is what I'm hearing is happening now. A number of people are, actively on YouTube saying, hey, message me at this, link, or get in contact with me and I'll be happy to see, they're even showing properties as though they are realtors and they're not. So ask them to verify. So for me, I'm not a licensed realtor in the Dominican Republic because, again, you don't have to be licensed, but I've done real estate work in the United States. I'm a lawyer here in the United States, licensed in several jurisdictions. So there's accountability, right? Like I am not trying to screw up my law license. That's my livelihood. I'm not trying to get in any type of issue, any type of trouble with the state bar or whatever. And so here's the thing, even though somebody is in a foreign country, if you find out that they are doing something fraudulent or unethical, and there's a way to report them in the US, you can do that. And I would say that you should do that because we need to make sure that, sort of innocent, honest people aren't being taken advantage of, and that there's not a culture just of like, people say, oh, it's a wild, wild west down there. Well, it can be if you're not informed and if you're not taking precautions, but it doesn't have to be like that. So if you are considering dealing with someone, or if you have dealt with someone who just is telling you that they're a realtor or telling you they can sell you a piece of property, slow your roll. And as I said, ask for verification, find out, what's the person's name, look them up online, do Google, at least a basic Google search, find out, what's their background. Is there anything that can tip you off? For example, I heard of one person who said, oh, I've been buying and selling real estate for 20 years, but apparently it was his own property. It wasn't like he had actually served any clients. There's someone else I know of who's claiming to, sell real estate or help sell real estate down there, who has no real estate background whatsoever and doesn't, have nothing to do, like knowing what's in a contract, knowing how to read a contract, knowing what's important for the buyer, what's important for the seller. Like you need to know, these are people who need to be able to tell you these kinds of things, even if you have a lawyer. And that's another thing, like how to find a good lawyer down there. But even if you feel like you've got a lawyer, your realtor should be able to tell you what something means in a contract. And if they can't explain it to you, that's an issue. Furthermore, if they cannot help you identify what something, most of the contracts, of course, in the DR are in Spanish because that's just the national language. Either they should be able to translate it for you, have it translated, or at least explain to you, well, this section, even though it's in Spanish, means, you've got to pay a deposit by this date. And if you don't follow through, then your deposit is lost, whatever the terms may be. And they should be able to help you negotiate some of the terms. Everything's negotiable. And that comes with experience and practice. And so if you're not dealing with someone who has this type of practical experience in their background, you are putting your money at risk. You're putting yourself at risk. And if you do that and you sign a deal, nobody's going to be able to help you at the end of the day, right? If you go ahead and sign on and you're dealing with people who just are looking for a way to make money off of you, then you're going to be in trouble because they're out really for themselves and not for you. And my understanding is that there are a lot of people, I guess I'll call them like copycat YouTubers now, who are coming up in different parts of the DR, including Las Terrenas, who are saying, here, I can help you buy a house and we'll show you something really pretty and make it seem as though, they have the wherewithal to really help you with the transaction of that magnitude. And when you're spending $100,000, $200,000 and up, 300,000, whatever it is, you don't want to be taking your chances with someone who's just trying to find a way to make money. And that's what's happening now in large part, especially people who have moved to the Dominican Republic fairly recently, I'd say within the last year or two. they've been hit by COVID, right? They're affected too. And so their jobs at home, if they were working remotely, may have dried up. Their jobs, whatever they were doing locally in town, selling things or offering services, a lot of that stuff is not available to them anymore because of, everybody's pockets have been pinched because of COVID. And so a lot of people are just trying to make money and finding ways to do it. And they're like, oh, well, let me just sell a house. Let me just, you know, claim to be able to help people find apartments or whatever. I know specifically that there are people, if you, they'll, one of the questions they ask often is like, well, what's your budget, right? They want to know right up front, what's your budget? How much money? Hey, Portia, how much money? And Curtis, hola, Curtis, I see the messages. How much money do you have available to spend, whether it's a purchase or a rental? Be careful with that. I don't like asking that question. I don't like being asked that question because it makes me feel like you're going to just, whatever my budget is, you're going to push it right up to the limit. And I know firsthand that has happened. I know specifically that there's someone who said that she, I don't want to reveal too much, I guess, but there was there was a client who had a particular budget. And this person was like, well, the apartment only costs X amount per month, but her budget is Y, right? Her budget was more than the apartment actually cost. And she was willing to tell the client that the apartment cost more and pocket the difference. And I was like, you can't do that. That's unethical, right? That's going to come back on you one way or another. It's like stuff comes out. And so you must be careful. That's why I say, do your due diligence, do your research on people, get to know them a little bit, ask about their background. Do they have any people that they've actually sold to? How many houses have they sold? How many clients do they have? Can you speak to another client? Can you, is there some type of professional reference, not their friend, obviously, but a professional reference, someone who can say, yep, I worked with this person for a year, 2 years, whatever it is, and we've sold X number of properties, and these buyers or sellers are happy, whatever it is, but find out. Certainly, if there's someone who has some type of professional background, they're a lawyer, they're an accountant, they're a whatever it is, then it was a rookie move by the client. Yeah, maybe so. But people don't know. Let me finish this one thought. So if there's someone who has any type of professional background, look them up or ask them, well, what have you done? Where are you licensed? Have you done this type of work before? And if they're just like, well, for me, that's a no. That's an absolute no. I'm not sending you my money. Here's the thing that happened to me. Okay. Before I moved to the DR back in 2018, I was looking online for a place to live and all that, like many of you out there have done. And I found some places that were cute and, seemed to be nice, but I didn't know where I was going, right? And it's like, well, where is this in town? Is it close to this? Is it far from that? And is it safe? And all the same questions that most people have. I don't remember how, but I ended up being connected with a realtor down there, right? Supposedly. And he told me that, so we found a place, he sent me pictures, looked great, the price was right, the whole bit. He said, okay, now you have to send a deposit to lock in, to hold your place before you get here. I think it was like $1,000 deposit. And I didn't know this man. I did not know him. He seemed legit. He seemed, able to send me pictures, but how hard is it to get pictures of an apartment? So I didn't send him a deposit because I was afraid of losing my $1,000. And those of you who've watched my channel for a while may know that what happened was that because I didn't send the deposit, I got to Las Terrenas and the apartment was gone. Turns out he was actually legitimate, but I didn't know. And so, you got to feel it out. But I ended up being fine. And, but I would rather have, honestly, I think I would have rather done it the way I did it, because I tell you one thing, if you send somebody money and they're not on top of it, you're not going to get your money back. I mean, it's very hard to get money back, even in a legit deal. Here's an example I had with clients of mine. So I had somebody who wanted to rent an apartment and I found them a place and they liked it and they sent the pictures and had the contract ready to go. But then they were like, well, they were kind of hesitating, right? And I said, well, that's fine. You can take your time and make your decision. But until the deposit is paid or until, there's something locked in, it's not a done deal. And sure enough, the seller, even though we said, yep, they're absolutely coming on this date and this is what they want and they like it and the whole bit. And I was there to go by and look at the place and confirm that, everything worked and all that stuff. Not the seller, but the landlord rented to someone else. And I was really upset because I'm like, come on, you knew this was going to happen. They're like, well, they paid the money first. I think what happened is actually the client did send the money, But by the time I got it and took it to the owner and all that stuff, they had rented to someone else, which I thought was kind of funky on the owner's part. But I get it. I mean, these people are not they're not in business to be friends with you. They're not in business to hold your hand. They're trying to get their money and move on. And so it's kind of a balance you have to strike between when you send the money, how you trust somebody, and whether you hold back, right? Like you just, again, you have to feel it out. And that's why I say you get to know some people as best you can before engaging to that extent, before sending them a check or a wire transfer or whatever it is. Um, maybe then ask, say, what if I send you $50 instead of 500, right? If I send you 50, just as a good faith payment, can you work out a hold on that? There's different ways to do it. But I got on because I was like, let me tell these people about what's happening down there. And I think it's becoming more rampant, as I said, because of the economy that we're now in. A lot of us are facing, hardship because of COVID. Jobs have changed, all of that. So there's my cautionary tale for you. I don't know if any of you guys have had experience with that, but do be careful, even if they look really sweet or seem really knowledgeable or come across, with confidence or whatever. It's like, what's your background? Are you a candle maker and you're selling scented candles and suddenly now you want to sell me a house? You know what I'm saying? Like, just be careful. Like, it's a professional endeavor, right? Buying and purchasing real estate is a big, big deal. And so you don't want someone who just like decided to go into it like, well, here's a way to make some money. Like, I would not recommend it. I tell my clients, be really careful. When the people contact me, I have everything lined up. They can check, in terms of the lawyers I recommend. You can go to their website, you can look at their background, and there's all that kind of stuff. As I said, I myself am a lawyer, and so there's lots of accountability there. I've sold some homes. I've put some clients in touch with the realtors I use, and they've made purchases and they've been very happy. Like, there's just no issues. And I don't want to create an issue for anybody because I don't want it splashing back on me. I don't want to have to go back and go, oh my gosh, now I got to fix this and undo it and try to finagle out of something. I don't do that. So when that's my, I'm not in the DR right now. I will be back there in a couple of months. My business is continuing there. I did set up an actual company, so I have an LLC. You can ask people that too. Well, do you have a business, an established business, or are you just like doing your thing? Like, I actually set up a company. I went through the trouble of paying the money and engaging an attorney and all this stuff to set it up properly. So I have a legitimate business there. Again, accountability. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of what it is, right? So I actually talked to one of the realtors that I work with the other day, and he was the one who said, look, he asked me about a particular person. Do you know this YouTuber? And mentioned another one down there. And they're like, look, there's some stuff going on here now that's not cool. And so they want to make sure that whoever they deal with, who they're coming through and sort of what the expectations are. And I was like, look, this is what I know, but I'll be sure to share this information. Go down, run a place, look around, do your due diligence, use your common sense before purchasing. Absolutely, absolutely, Quad. It's too big of a deal to mess around with. So here's another situation I was involved in, right? So I knew someone who lived at the time in Punta Cana, and she's not a lawyer, but she had a client. She wanted to sell some real estate to somebody. And she said, well, Kelly, you're a lawyer. Will you come over here and help me with this transaction? I said, okay. So I went over there. We met with a person. We went by and we saw the property. It was still in development. They were like, it was a sort of a large complex. And some of the properties were built, some weren't. But we went to see, like, okay, it's actually there. That's another thing. Make sure the property is actually there, because I've heard of things where people sell you stuff that doesn't even exist. It can be crazy. So we went by there, no problem, met with the client, and he wanted to do a certain type of financing. And I was like, all right, and the owner, that's what it was. The owner was saying, yeah, well, I'll loan the money, whatever. But it seemed a little fishy. So I went to my attorneys. They also have offices in Punta Cana. And I said, can you look into this for me, please? Look into this, and here's who the client is and whatever. And they did. And they found out that the property actually had not been properly appraised. The title was a mess, that the owner who was purporting to have the title to convey to the buyer actually didn't have it all the way transferred to him yet. So it would have been a disaster. And this person was ready to put down, this is maybe like a $5,000 deposit, like a quick, like a small one, because it was still sort of pre-construction, some of the property. But the lawyer said, no, this is not a good deal. This is not a deal that I would recommend this person get into. And I actually appreciate that. Now the deal basically fell apart, which means I didn't make money. nobody benefited from that in that way, but the client didn't purchase a piece of crap. Like they were saved. And so I would much rather have that happen than be like money hungry and like, oh, just buy, buy, buy. And then you find out, or the purchaser finds out that there's problems, the title's not correct. There are people fighting over it. Oh, you thought you bought, 1,000 meters squared and you really only have 500 meters, whatever. It can just be a disaster. And so please make sure you check out who these people are. If you're considering doing business with them, find out, do they have an actual company? Where are they from? What's their reputation? Who do they know in terms of like who that you can talk to? And if it just seems like it's a friend or whatever, it probably is. And so that's my warning to you guys. All right. Other than that, Happy New Year. Hope you're well. Life's good. I'll be back there. As I said, yes, I'm still in business. I'm focusing on other things in other places, but I do, as I said, I have a business running in Las Terrenas. I have people there who are working with me that can completely hold. I mean, since I've been away, I've sold 2 properties there. So, without any hitches, like things are smooth, which is possible when you deal with people who are legitimate and professional and know what they're talking about. So if you didn't catch the whole live stream here, I recommend that you go back and look at it because there's some really important information for anyone who's considering certainly purchasing, but even renting. Just be careful. Okay? Mwah. Peace and love. See you guys later. Have a good day. Send some love to somebody. Bye. I hope that was helpful for you guys, by the way. I really hope it was helpful. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Take it easy. Bye.